Hey officers, welcome to the virtual club officer training for spring 2022. Thanks for being here and for watching this. Here's what we're going to do today. Since we can't meet in person, we thought it was just more responsible to do this virtually. We're going to talk a few things about COVID. I'm sure you're excited about that. And mostly what we're going to talk about today is money. Allocations and reimbursements and budgeting mostly, and then we'll wrap up with what you need to do to meet this semester. Also, welcome back. A couple things to remember for COVID. Let's get these out of the way quickly. Masks are not required. There's no social distancing guidelines or anything like that. However, the MTSU is following a lot of the CDC recommendations, and I want to make sure as leaders of your club that you're establishing a culture that's inclusive, right? We've talked about that before. So that includes masks too. If someone is wanting to wear their mask, then we should be providing an environment where they're feeling comfortable in doing that. And not just masks, but anything else that relates to being inclusive as well. Nothing new about travel this semester. Clubs are still allowed to travel. Just be smart and safe, please. There's another step in your research you'll probably need to do is just checking on COVID policies for the university, the state, county, city, wherever you're going. Just to inform your teams if there is something that they need to bring or something else to be aware of. If you're coming here in the rec center, just know that people sweat here a lot, and so this can be a pretty dirty place. So do your best to keep it clean, picking up trash in the areas that you practice or participate in, and washing your hands. Please continue to wash your hands thoroughly every time you go into a restroom or something like that. As I said, MTSU is following CDC guidelines for a lot of their policies. They have updated their website, and it's just on their MTSU homepage or the coronavirus page right here, and it's mostly in the form of frequently asked questions. But you can also click the links over here to get more information. Okay, that's it for COVID. So let's talk about allocations and reimbursements first. I started this with a kind of top-down approach, like a big picture approach. So I wanted to give you some information about money and how it relates specifically to your club, but we're starting with the bigger picture and where does that money come from. So we say that we're student fee funded, which means campus recreation is within the student affairs umbrella in the university. And so this chart that you see here is a breakdown of student fees, where all of your fees go to, the fees that you pay in your tuition. So as you can see, recreation there, we get $61 from every student who who pays their fees, who's full-time here at the university. That goes to campus recreation, okay? There's some other crazy breakdowns here. I mean, you can Google this chart and find it on your own, but you can see there's where the university kind of values their programs there. Once recreation kind of gets that money, then it gets divided into club sports, right? So some of it gets allocated to club sports. So depending on how many students enroll in the university and how many are paying their fees, depends on how much money campus recreation and how much money club sports gets. So then once club sports gets that amount, then we have to split that up for each individual club, the 20 or so clubs that we have here. So that's why we have you submit your budgets. So let's talk about allocations. The allocations, right, that's just what we call how much money we give you. What I mean by that is how much money the club sports department program gives each individual club. We allocate you that money. So this list of things right here, this is what we use to allocate clubs money. So this is what matters to us. So how much does your sport cost? How much do you need to operate it? How close to the policies, university policies and the club policies, the things that we ask you to do, the information we send out in the email, how much of those things are you actually doing? How long your club has been around and the size of your club. Now, this is not a priority list, and it's not in specific order, but these are the things that we take into consideration when deciding how much money to give your club. And we'll tell you after that. So once we decide that, we email you after you've submitted your budget and we've gone through it and all that stuff. We'll send you an email saying your club gets this much money for the semester. Remember that you don't actually see that money until you've already made the purchase and completed the reimbursement process. So we don't give you the money, right? When we send you that email, it doesn't come with a deposit slip that says you get this much money has been deposited into your account. That's not how it works. So you have to pay for your own things, and then the university will deposit money into your club bank account for that expense, for that purchase. So that comes in the form of reimbursements, right? So let's talk about those. So always go over this every semester because there's a ton of questions about it, and that's okay to ask questions about it. But this is what the university can pay you for. This is what we can reimburse. Any of your governing organization dues or team fees. So any of your national governing body registration costs. If you have to pay a certain amount each semester to include your team in that governing body. If you're hosting events and you're paying officials and athletic trainers, then you can get reimbursed for those. Equipment, including uniforms, are reimbursable as long as it's non-personal equipment, which means it's for the club. It's not for individual players in the club. So a great example of this is if you're going to buy uniforms, it can't have someone's name on the back, right? It can have someone's number, but it can't have their name because that's a personal item. That's a personal thing. All equipment, of course, has to stay here with us. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And travel-related expenses, huge reimbursable expense. Any transportation, gas, hotel or Airbnb costs. If you have an entry fee to a tournament, that's all reimbursable. Those are all reimbursable expenses. Here's a list of some general things that cannot be reimbursed. The facility space. If we offer a space here at the university to play, we won't pay for you to play anywhere else or to practice anywhere else. But if we don't, we may. So we just have to work that out on an individual basis. If you have a question about something being reimbursed or not, please ask. By all means, we want you to spend your money. So we will try and find a way to make it reimbursable if possible, but ultimately it's not our decision. All right, so I wanted to go through the reimbursement process step by step. So I'm going to start with your steps since you're the ones that have to initiate the process. Then it'll go into what I do, and then it'll go into what the university does. So it's a pretty extensive process. So that's why we try to educate you every semester on it, because there's so much to know. And the more you know, the easier it's going to be for everybody. So first thing you do is find something you want to buy for your club. After that, check that list to make sure it's reimbursable. If you can't figure it out, let us know. If it is reimbursable, we want you to use your club money to purchase the item or the service, right? So this ties back to your club bank account, which we will talk a little bit about more later. But if you should have a debit card or something like that for your bank account, your club bank account that you use to make the purchase. If it's a piece of equipment, an item, uniform, anything like that, it has to be shipped to the rec center. So don't ship it to your house or your apartment complex, whatever. Ship it here. It just will skip a step. So you don't have to transport it here, and then we have to schedule the time to inventory, and then we have to put it away. All the equipment has to be stored here in the rec center or at the sport club complex anyway. Use that shipping address there. That is also online in the handbook. After that, you're going to get those itemized receipts from the vendor. So after you make your purchase, you need a receipt for that. Itemized receipt, that just means that it lists everything individually that you purchased and the cost of each thing individually on your receipt. That's just what an itemized receipt is. Remember, we're not using invoices, we're using receipts. And once you've done that, then you fill out the reimbursement form. That reimbursement form is found on our Campus Rec website. So I'm going to show you. Here is our Campus Rec website. Go to Sport Clubs, go to General down here in Forms, and right here is the receipt reimbursement form. It's a dynamic form, as you can see, so you'll sign in with your own credentials, and you'll be good to go. Oh, sorry about this. Okay, so once you've filled out the form, or it has to go through 3 parties, right? So your president, your treasurer, and advisor all have to sign off on it. And we need it to be detailed as well, which you'll see. It'll require you to be that. Then once you've completed that, once it's gone through all 3 of those steps, then it'll get submitted to me, and I see it right away, automatically. If you haven't heard from me in 2 or 3 business days or something like that, it's probably not a bad idea to reach out and say, hey, I just wanted to make sure you saw that reimbursement form that I submitted for whatever. After that, it's out of your hands. So that's 7 steps, 7 things really that you have to do. Then it goes to me. So Eli or myself have to review the form, and make sure it's following all of our policies. And we're the kind of the first person to be able to say if the university is going to approve it or not. We also are checking your budget that you submitted and your allocation amounts remaining to make sure you're not exceeding that, and make sure what you're putting in here is in the budget. After that, if it has not been correctly filled out, then we'll communicate with you through email. If it has correctly been filled out, it goes to my boss, Josh, who looks at it as another review in our office. Then, if he approves it, it goes to our office manager, who's the one who actually submits it to the MTSU payroll office. So once she does that, that's when it's kind of officially been submitted to the university. Then the university reviews it, right? And then logs it and tracks, all of the previous purchases and all that stuff, and then sends the money. So we tell people it could take up to 2 weeks for this whole process to be done, to be finished. But usually MTSU payroll is pretty good about getting it to you quickly. Not always, but a lot of times they try, because they understand you've already made the purchase and you need the money. Remember that 4th step down there is the money is going into your club bank account as a direct deposit, right? It's not going to you personally. And that's it. That's the whole process. So every single reimbursement has to go through this process, every single one. So please do your best to get used to this procedure and be detailed when you fill out the forms. That's the best advice I can give you. I wanted to talk to you quickly about the differences between receipts and invoices, because I know there's some confusion there. So this is a chart I found. It's pretty, it sums it up pretty well, I would say. But an invoice is something that is requesting payment. So the vendor or the business will send you an invoice before you've made a purchase, saying, here's the cost of everything, here's what you owe us, basically. And a receipt is sent after purchase. So a receipt is a legal document that proves you have purchased this item for this amount. And it's got to have that proof of purchase on it. That's the biggest difference, the proof of purchase on the receipt versus the invoice. There's plenty of examples you could look up if you're curious about that, but we need receipts, not invoices. MTSU will not reimburse for invoices. It has to be a receipt. And if you don't have a receipt, if you can't find one, if they didn't email you one, or you didn't print one when you made the purchase, then you need to contact the company again and find and get them to send you a receipt. Okay, a couple of other just general reimbursement policies is that each reimbursement has to be submitted the same semester the purchase was made. So for spring 2022, May 5th is the last day of term. So the allocation process, the budgeting process, that's a semester by semester process for us. So by May 5th, you have to have submitted all of your reimbursements for the semester. So that whole process that we talked about before has to be done. There's a chance that it can extend into the next semester, but that it just depends on a variety of things. So we will tell you to do everything per semester. Summer reimbursements are possible, but they're tricky because of the end of the fiscal year happens in the semester, or in the summer, but don't worry about that for right now. Just a reminder that everything that has been reimbursed is technically the university's property. So even though you're the one who purchased it initially, you're the one who chose what it was, the university technically owns it because they reimbursed you the money for it, right? So even though they didn't make the initial payment, they still paid for it. That's why everything has to be stored on campus, and that's why we have to inventory everything. Okay, that's pretty much it for reimbursements. The last thing about them, though, I wanted to talk about are these club bank accounts. So I'm still seeing a lot of people purchase things personally. And I just wanted to again emphasize how crucial the club bank accounts are for the club's success. Really for two reasons. That's where your reimbursement money goes. So if you pay for it personally, then you're going to have to write a check to yourself, or you're going to have to get some way to transfer funds from the club bank account to your personal bank account. And that's an extra step that you shouldn't have to do. This whole process that we have exists for you not to have to pay for anything personally on your own. You should not be paying for anything personally. Any reimbursable expenses, especially. When it comes to your club bank account, if you don't have one, you need to create one first before you can get any money. Ascend Federal Credit Union is the one that most of our clubs use, but you don't have to use them. 3 names need to be on that account, minimum, and they need to all be students. The president, the vice president, and the treasurer for each club need to be on that account. That's one of the things that should transition once officers leave and new officers come in. You need to switch those names. Again, this is just reinforcing the hassle it is to pay for things personally and then instead of using your club bank account, right? So it just makes it harder for everyone in the long term. And it just shows that you're not really managing that club bank account the way it should be. In the short term, it might seem like it's easier to just pay for something personally, but I promise you it is not. It is not worth the hassle and stress of worrying about when you're going to get that money because it's your personal money. You know, we understand you're a college student and you should be using your personal money for college, right? For stuff like that. So we have money set aside for club stuff. So we want you to use that and use the process correctly. So the initial concern, right, people have is, well, there's no money in our club bank account to buy things. Then you as an officer show some leadership, show some organization, work together as a group, as an officer group, and organize a fundraiser, right? And organize a few fundraisers. You know, fundraisers are a great way to kind of get to know each other, a great way to do something as a club, do something as a group, and earn some money for it. Put that money in your club bank account. All right, that's it for reimbursements and allocation. I do want to talk about budgeting now also. And basically what we're going to do here is just go through the form. So you know now that treasurers are required for each club. Just a list of their responsibilities there. And what we're going to do is go through the template, the budget template that we have each of our clubs fill out. So in general, though, just make sure every section is completed and have the treasurer and the president or vice president, whoever, double check all of the things after the treasurer completes this form. Details. The fewer questions we have to throw back at you, the better, and the quicker the whole process is going to go for everyone. So please put details. Don't mess with the formulas. It's an Excel file, so send it back to us in an Excel file, please. And don't mess with the formulas. Just input the numbers where they need to be, okay? Which I'll show you here in a minute. Here's the first page. It's just a basic page, but make sure everything's filled out. This is where all your officer information goes here. Active members goes here. The tier level, if you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. Put your national governing body here and their information. And that's pretty much it here. The next page, last thing about this one is I put the tabs at the bottom, as you can see down here. So there are 5 tabs. Each tab needs to be filled out. General info is this first tab. The second tab is expenses. As you can see, I just put a test in here to show you how the formulas work. But I typed in the word test. I put the quantity number in, and I put the unit price in. The cost column, that calculates automatically. And then it'll send it down here to the bottom, and also down here to the bottom under total expenses under equipment. It will also send this total to the final page, which I'll show you later. So the expenses, the equipment, the facilities, the association league fees, these are all reimbursable expenses, right? So we want you to put on here only what we'll reimburse you for. Again, the equipment, is it individual or is it team? Put exactly what it is. When it gets delivered, of course, we have to inventory and store it. So facilities, we talked about that before. You may or may not need to use that section. And this is the team fees, the team costs for your organization as well. All right, page 3 is the schedule page. So here's where we want you to put your events. Are you hosting any events? Home events are at the top, away events are in the middle. Postseason is down here at the bottom. So again, fill out each section for each event. If you don't have ref fees or athletic training fees, which we can put in other, then just leave it blank, right? The postseason may or may not be filled out. So if you have to qualify for that, then don't put it in your initial budget. We do have a separate pot of money for that we can use. If you're going to like nationals no matter what, then go ahead and put your information down in there. All right, the next page is the revenue page. So how much money you're gaining as a club. Up here, fundraisers and events. Remember, you're supposed to fundraise. You're supposed to fundraise. So this is why we have a fundraising requirement. Last semester it was 10%. This semester it's back to 25%. So we gave you that semester to kind of figure out some fundraising. If you didn't do it, you're going to be behind. You're going to be hurting. So please, please, please get some money for your club. Put that information up here at the top, though. It's a little bit of a projection. So this is where you need to brainstorm, but put some ideas down about how much money you want to raise. The dues here are the next section here. Put that in revenue as well. One thing to keep in mind about dues is that they're oftentimes a big hindrance for new members, right? So the lower that your dues are, then the more members you're going to get, right? And it'll be easier to retain members. Those dues, again, they should be deposited into your club bank account. Sponsorships are a great idea too. So if you can use your connections to work with a business to sponsor you, to give you something, to put their logo on your uniform or whatever it is, that's fine. Do it as long as it doesn't put the university or your club or the department in poor light. So things like liquor stores, tobacco companies, things like that, right? Use your common sense on that. But if you have questions about the sponsorships, definitely ask. If you have another form of revenue, too, that we didn't put specifically on here, feel free to list that there. Again, all of these sections, these totals right here, they'll all be sent to the bottom in the total section, and then each total section will go to this summary page. So as you can see, here's the one that gets automatically moved from the first tab that I put in to this last page here. So you won't have to type in anything. Any of these up here, they will automatically translate from the previous tab. Except this last tab right here, desired assistance. This is how much you are requesting. So please type that in. Theoretically, if you've done everything right, it should match up with your outstanding expenses. It doesn't have to, but it's a good way. It's a good place to start. So don't leave it blank. If you put 0 here, we think you're not asking us for any money this semester. All right, I think that's it for budgeting. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to let us know. And last few things here is, again, this is what you need to do to get organized this semester. So send us the contact info, have your waivers completed on the rec portal. Remember that every club has to do this for every member each semester. So again, just click on the rec portal really quickly. It will take you to the page here. This is the main rec portal, M2CU. You'll sign in, you'll go to My Teams. Yours will look a little bit different. So you can actually go down here to Sport Clubs, and you can click on either one of these, or go up here and click on My Teams. Maybe it's over here for you. I don't know because yours looks different. But if you have questions about that, have questions about getting people onto your roster again, ask your presidents or ask us and we can help you with that. But those have to be done to fill out the waivers. They're electronic, and that's how we store them. Submit your practice requests for on-campus clubs and your game schedules for all the clubs. Budgets are due February 7th, please, so you have a few weeks for that, but please send those in by then so we can start allocating money to clubs. Safety officer information, if you have the same safety officers as last semester, then you won't have to do anything separately. If you have new safety officers, let us know and we can send out that information that they need for this semester to watch the video and fill out the tests and everything like that. If you're a new club, you'll also need to register your organization in MyMT and send us your constitution and, like I said, complete safety officer information. So if that's, I think that's it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, again, we're happy to help. Let's have a great semester.